And if the market does crash, guess what? You have cash on the side to buy the dip, bitch. Because we know the market's going to go back up. It always goes back up. In my personal opinion, rather than buying inverse, right? And buying inverse can be SPXS shares, it can be SQQQ shares, it can be UVXY shares, or it could be options on these. I don't like owning too much of this for the long term in a bullish market while we have 0% interest rates. Now, a lot of you guys are saying, well, let's talk about the economy's fucked. Yeah, but the market's not the economy, okay? That being said, I don't like this because if the market does continue a bull run, this is just money that's wasted. It's just gone. It just slowly disappears. Sure, if the market crashes, this will help you, right? It'll help offset some of that. But if it doesn't, then it's just a slow bleed because not only are you losing value in the actual inverse equity, but because they're leveraged, you lose money in decay. So you're losing money on top of losing money. For me, if I was concerned about a market crash or a recession, I would focus on personal debt first. Whether that's refinancing with low rates, whether that's getting high interest debt down. Why? Because even if the market doesn't crash, you still did yourself a favor, right? It's a no-lose situation. The market keeps going up. Yeah, you may have missed out on some profits, but you still cleared up your debt, so you win. The market does crash, recession happens, you lose your job or you lose equity value in the market, you paid down your debt. You've kind of protected yourself on both ways. There's no losing in this situation. Then number two, what I would do is I would take some off the top, okay? Why do I say that? And the reason I say this is I want you to think long-term investor and not degenerate. Okay? Think about this for a second. Just bear with me for 1 second. I want you to think like a long-term investor and not a degenerate. Is refinancing a mortgage worth it if it's 3.6 and the best I could get is 2.8? Depending on any penalties that you might incur, if on a $300,000 house, that's going to save you about $50,000 over the course of your mortgage if you bring it to term. So I would say that if it cost you $3,000 or $4,000 to refinance, but you can get 0.8% lower, I would say $50,000 saved versus $5,000 paid for. That's a pretty good fucking ROI. All right. Now, why do I say take some off the top rather than buying inverse? Because if the market does this, you lose the money over the next year that you put in inverse, whether it's option, whether it's inverse leverage ETF, whatever. You lose that money. It's gone. Or it bleeds out. But Stock, if the market crashes, okay, great. Market crashes, you make some money on that potentially. But how much have you lost in the midterm? Now, if you take a little off the top on your big gainers, like 1 share every week or 2 shares every week like that, and put that into cash, why is that important? Well, if the market continues to rise, yeah, you don't make profit because that money's in cash, but you didn't take a loss if it was an inverse. And if the market does crash, guess what? You have cash on the side to buy the dip, bitch. Because we know the market's going to go back up. It always goes back up. So now when it does go back, you make even more money. So rather than trying to inverse the market or hedge for a crash that may or may not come, if I was absolutely convinced that it was and whatever, I would work on, or a recession is coming, I would work on personal debt first. And then instead of buying inverse stuff, I would just sell little bits of profitable positions little by little on the way up and park it in cash. If the crash never comes, sure, you didn't make any more money with that cash, but you didn't lose money by trying to bet against the market. And if the market does crash, instead of trying to time when to sell the inverse to buy the new one, you have cash to buy the dip and make twice as much on the way up. Historically, yeah, but nowadays shit's just changing so rapidly. It's hard to gauge it. Like normally, you would hedge with something else. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Real estate, probably the best investment in my opinion coming out of this is going to be real estate, because one of two things is going to happen: moratorium and everything is gonna add some supply into the market, and it's going to dip the prices of homes as we see more existing homes flood into the market with foreclosures and evictions, which will give you the ability to buy a little bit cheaper, or buying now that they've flatlined or come back a little bit while interest rates are still very low. So you can still get, it's overpriced, but the amount of money you'll save if you're actually going to be, borrowing cheap money right now to buy a home, it's going to save you more money down the road than if you were to wait for the house to come down, but then the rates go back up. And we know, based on what BlackRock, KKR, Zillow, these companies are doing, they're buying up real estate in blocks. So the potential crash of real estate has a safety net, because these guys are going to swoop in and buy it up with all the cash on hands. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't a domino effect that could happen from this eviction freeze, a non-extension, a delay in state funding and payments, forbearances in September, which is one that nobody's talking about. Federal-backed forbearances end in September, which could lead to a mortgage-backed security crisis. That is a concern. But if that doesn't happen, real estate's probably going to be one of the better moves, because rates are still low. Housing prices have cooled off, leveled off, potentially moving back a little bit. And we know that these large corporations are coming in and buying up real estate in large blocks. And so I think that if I already had money in the market, but I had like a significant portion, a significant amount of cash sitting in my account right now, I would look to, as long as rates stay low, I would definitely look to potentially borrow cheap money to grab some real estate, depending on where you are. I mean, granted, the market still is the biggest runner, obviously. The money's still there for now, but moving forward, I think real estate is definitely still something to keep an eye on. Real estate prices are the highest of all time. Yes, they're cooling off, but remember, why are they at the all-time high? Because money's cheap. Remember what I said before about buying a house. Obviously, nobody can predict the future and what your future financial status is going to be like, but let me tell you this right here. To the person asking about all-time high, do you know why people are paying over? Because here's the thing. On a $300,000 house, you may pay 10% higher, but for every 1% lower in your interest rate on your mortgage, you save $60,000 in the life of your mortgage. So I would much rather buy a house for $330,000 at 2.95 than $290,000 at a 3.75 or 4.0. Because granted, this may cost $40,000 more, but over the life of my mortgage, I'm still going to save $25,000. Not only that, but even if there's a dip in housing, which a lot of people are expecting, we know that real estate, based on historical precedents, is going to continue to go up. I mean, in the last 20 years, the median, not the mean, the median home price in America is up 150%. I have $100,000 cash that I inherited. Jesus fuck. Should I get a house or wait for the dip and put it into stocks? I don't know your personal situation. But if I was sitting on $100,000 right now, I wouldn't go balls to the wall on either one of them. I would take, depending on where I lived, I would wait till September to get a feeling of where the housing market's going to go, especially with moratorium. And I would take, if I was getting a house, let's say it was a $300,000 house, I would put my 20% down at $60K and then put the other $40K in the market. Let that shit work for me while I get really fucking cheap money to finance the rest of this. Because if I'm getting fucking 2.5% mortgage on this and the market's giving me 10 to 20% per year during a bull run, I'd fucking put my down payment on this bitch so you don't have to pay PMI, because nobody wants to pay fucking mortgage insurance, and then take the other $40,000 rather than throwing it at the house. I'd make more money on this current bull run putting that $40K in the market. And so instead of putting $40K here at 2.5%, if I could get 10 to 20%, which we're seeing right now, I mean, obviously that can change at any time, I'd let that $40,000 work for me and have the down payment here so I don't have to pay PMI, and that's how I would work that. But that's just me. That's just me. Because you don't know when the bull run's going to end, and you might as well make some money. And if it does end, well, fuck, at least you put the down payment on your house with a low interest rate, and you got the equity working for you. Still memeing, still joking, still having a good time, but just trying to bring a little bit more education into it.